great job. My name is Reverend Ed Hubbard. Just call me Ed. I don't like the formal titles. I'm CEO of WSI Incorporated, which is an online educational system. They brought me here to present it. My journey started at the Parliament in 1993. Like a lot of people, I wanted to know what I could do in the world to make a difference. And now currently Executive Director Reverend Fika challenged me in '95, shortly thereafter, to begin trying to figure out a way to help my community and help the world. And for me, I discovered something of very big importance. Knowledge is one of the key elements in our society. And one of the things that has happened in our society is that knowledge has gotten to be more expensive as we've gone along. You hear all the time about the fact that education is expensive. It doesn't reach the people. It doesn't make a change. So I had to set out in my own community. I happen to be a pagan by nature, and also my community has suffered terribly from a lack of general education. And so we went out and had to find a way to teach. And one of the things we learned is that almost all religious teaching begins as something called peer-to-peer education. What does this mean? It means that most education within the religious community happens at a pastor, an imam, a reverend, all sorts of religious higher authorities, but the real education begins between people. Peer-to-peer means educating ourselves directly. You all kind of learn, ever gone to the schoolyard? Most of the education in the schoolyard begins with, how do you learn how to play a game? Hopscotch. You don't have a formal book on it. No one gives you instructions on how to play hopscotch. Your best friend taught you, and they create the rules. And you build games. Any number of ways that you learn through it. The school ground, you learn how to behave. Now, either you behave or you don't behave. You get popped if you're a kid, or you get to succeed. In 1977, it was probably one of the most dramatic years in the history of the world for education. And it goes largely unheralded. There were exactly 0 PCs or personal computers available to the world. Today, there's over 1.1 billion personal computers. And that represents a massive change in society. For those of you who look at personal computers and go, oh, that doesn't seem to be a big change, but it is. And it is a change in a very fundamental and personal way. It allows you access to a lot of information in the world. But how did we get there? We learned it from each other. There was no formal schools. In 1977, when Radio Shack were out there, little TSR 80s and their Atari computers, the guy who was a computer guru was the guy who bought it the week before. And you had to ask everybody, how do I use this thing? And nobody really knew how to use them, so we had to each find ways to teach each other. And then a month later, you became the guru, and then your friend bought a computer. And then a month later, they became a guru, and so on and so forth. And pretty soon you had a revolution that we now call the digital revolution. And like all good revolutions, it began with a few people teaching other people. And it continues today. And this is a very powerful thing. And what did this idea of peer-to-peer education give us? Trillions of dollars of extra value in our society that cost us pennies in real amounts. It didn't cost us that much to do this, but it added so much more. And what it was a non-monetary exchange to the monetary economy. Because no one charged for that education. It would be almost 10 years before a real formal education in computers began. And then today, we all now have iPhones, cell phones of all sorts. And what are we still doing? Teaching each other how to use them. So peer-to-peer education has a value. What I do as an online educator, let me talk a little bit about what we set out to do. In our community, which happened to be Wiccan, we didn't have enough educators. We simply were growing at a rate of doubling our size in the United States at every 18 months. That meant that where there was one person, 18 months there were 2. 18 months later there were 4. And today there's over 1 million practicing Wiccans and pagans in the United States at various levels. and the teachers were overwhelmed. So we began utilizing a very simple process. In 1998, we began with something called One List. And we didn't understand enough about it, and we left the list open. Okay, an email list is just simply that. You receive your mail through your computer, and a list is so that a lot of people get your email simultaneously. And overnight, within a year, we had over 2,000 people on that list. And that list became an amazing thing. People were able to learn and teach each other. We opened up a formal website in 2001. And today, that formal website now teaches 215,000 people in 161 countries. It is an amazing thing. And we have done it at less than 80 cents per student per year. Absolutely. People volunteer, the content's made available, and that's what the internet does. It changes things. This is about communication. And the reason why it's valuable is that we often talk about ability to get things done, the power to get things done. And one person I studied was Dr. Alvin Toffler. He wrote a book called Future Shop. He's written a number of books since then. And he talks about power coming from three separate ideas. And that is, the first form of power is violence. Do what I say, or I'm going to hit you, or hurt you. And it's the lowest grade of power in our society. And it's the one that we are all here, hearing each other and healing each other, trying to solve. Because it is a form of power that is, by its very nature, one we don't want to utilize. The second form of power comes from wealth. Simply, you can, if you can't find a way, you can maybe buy what you want, trade what you want, and make ways of dealing things to get things done. And the third form is knowledge. Knowledge is in itself power. Knowledge can be exchanged for violence, and it can also be exchanged for wealth. Now, the first two forms of power, violence and wealth, are based on limited resources. You don't want to utilize violence too much because people will rebel against you, and it is not a very good form, and I feel for other people didn't use it. And wealth, if I have a dollar bill, I can use it, but you can't use the same dollar bill at the same time. And it goes for resources and water. But knowledge is the only resource we have that its capacity is shareable and infinite. I can have a piece of knowledge, and I can give you that knowledge, and I have not diminished my knowledge base. You have the knowledge to do something, be it water reclamation, how to desalinate water for a very poor country, to how to read a particular text, to reading religious text, to how to build a rocket. It's amazing that it is. All these different ideas, and there's tens, thousands, millions of forms of knowledge. But if we share that knowledge, it does not diminish it, it only builds it up. And that is something that we tend to forget. So in today's world, online education is becoming a substantial part of our society. Within this capability, we all have right now the ability to teach people anywhere in the world that the internet reaches, and every day the internet reaches farther. How do we do this? I'm going to show you what is now a prototype of software that we've helped generate for this, and this is going to be available to everybody in the world to begin building education. Yay! This is a new model set we're building, and our motto is simply this: teaching the world by teaching ourselves. And through this system, this site, and this is a sample site, and I will show you the more full site here in a minute. You can see that right here from a very simple page that anyone can build. You've got your school write-ups, you can do course offerings you can get to. And what we do here is that we get very formal teachers. As you can see, Ancient Druids, it's one of our courses, sample courses are out there. And what you do is you get very formal teachers and non-formal teachers to write your content. And once your content is available, it stays permanently on the internet. And you can then go from there and add more items to it. Imagine that any teacher's material, instead of being lost, instead of having to require large textbooks, are able to do it and make it available to everyone, everywhere. Then you can log in, you can track this. This is administration. But I'm not going to get overly technical because of that. From here, people are now using it to learn all sorts of different things. I was going to hand out software disks for this so you can take it home, put it on your servers, and utilize it for yourself. But my environmentalist friends who are trying to teach me says, no, why would you increase the carbon footprint by creating disks when anyone can go home and download it? And if they understand computers well enough to put this on their server, they certainly know how to download it. So this is available free to anyone who wishes to download it. And this is just a very white model that it literally begins to launch today. Because 10 years ago, I was challenged to say, how do we teach the world? But what we've got out there is a world full of MySpaces, Twitters, links, forums, and all these components make it. Right now, what is happening, and I want to really show, oh, there we go. Let me show you peer-to-peer education of the Parliament. Brand new. Oh, now we got to work. Groups we have, all sorts of educational things, but I want to show you what the Parliament's doing. Because what they're doing is amazing. And it's called Peace Next. And this is literally peer-to-peer education at its best. Because they're asking us to do the same thing. And this is literally the same thing. This is peer-to-peer education at its best. You get and what this means is that we now have the capability. This is by the Council for the Parliament of World Religions. And this is the best way you can do so. You can come into this and join it. You can become a member of it. And on there, let me go ahead and explain some pieces of it so you understand. On the main page, as you can see, you have a lot of different parts. And you have your members, you have all the statements, you have all the things they're trying to get across. They have a video page where people are adding videos. And basically, on there is members, groups, maps, events, blogs, forums. This is a foreign language to you. This is a way people are communicating. Right now, let me take one little aspect. A year ago, when I heard of a Twitter, I thought of a small laugh. When I thought about a Twitter, I thought about a canary singing in its cage. Today, people are twittering all over the place. And over 130 million people worldwide Twitter. What's a Twitter? It's a 140-letter message board that is sent out that people are watching continuously. So you can get a message out. And this was used in the Iranian Revolution attempt, or the uprising up there. People on both sides were sending out Twitters to the world to let people know what was happening. In very oppressed areas, people are utilizing this sort of peer-to-peer education to let people know what is happening. People are sharing their photos. What is it that we can do that makes it powerful? Content is powerful. People are using Facebook. Facebook is called social media at its best. It's kind of a page out there. And all of these are used for education. Teachers are now able to go ahead and communicate with their students. And the danger of tomorrow's society is that students are getting really, really bored. How hard is it for a teacher in front of a classroom, and you probably press this, when the kids can go home and play a video game? Stimulation, continuous stimulation. So instead of just saying, oh, well, that's just it, teachers are now able, and this is a perfect example of utilizing the computer to teach multi-faith practices. It is time for us to go ahead and be able to teach everyone. There is now a concept called learn anything, anywhere, anytime. It's a very simple concept. What if we could teach and learn anything we wanted at any time and any place? Would that change the world? Would this not add to the overall wealth of our society? What if we could reach out to the smallest villages in the world today and give them the information that they need? There is a revolution going underneath inside the digital revolution called to learn anything, anytime, anywhere. And what this means is that all knowledge can be taught in a very direct way, at least the contents of it. And you can provide anybody with the best teachers in the world. What if you want to take an MIT course? MIT is now putting all their courses online. And you don't have to even pay tuition. You can just go see their lectures. How about Harvard? How about Stanford? How about how to build a water reclamation center. All of these are now being brought together. And one of my next projects is to bring more of it together through the portal that you saw, which was a white label portal. And I want people to be able to do that. PDF libraries are building. What's a PDF library? Electronic books. Can you imagine if you could publish a book and get it out to the world tomorrow without having to waste any paper? This is the revolution of tomorrow. This is what is coming. And you can do that right now. All my notes, actually probably better than my speech, are online at p2pschools.com. And there's the speech, what I'm talking about here is going to be available. Because my friends, my environmental friends said, why print all the paper? They're going to have to fly that all home, and yeah, that costs fuel, that costs energy, so why not make it available? In a world that is concerned about the environment, this is yet another way to communicate. We can argue about electricity, but hopefully we'll find easier ways to make electricity. So you have the ability to teach online in a very informal as well as formal way. So what about, how do we qualify the teachers for it? This is always my number one question. How do we qualify teachers for it? First step is, this gives formal teachers a better way to present material to people who are not in their rooms or without their arm's reach. Right now, the average teacher can reach out only as far as they can fit a room. This room is an example of it. We can only teach here as far as this room goes. But if a teacher has the capability of filming their lecture, then they have the ability to reach more people. And if you had a teacher's aide right here, which you could have set up and asked, filming it live, students from around the world can ask for help. That's being done all the time now. And that can reach. And so what keeps the teacher, and this way we can extend the value of our very big teachers, our very formal teachers who are way overworked, and in a lot of places not available. From there we have a thing called mentoring. Once you learn a subject, you can mentor, and that is a peer-to-peer education. We were quite capable of learning, teaching people at a continuous level. And for us, we were looking for making people understand the terms of clergy. And we have been able to teach in 10 years, over 215,000 people, and about 3,000 of us finished our six-year course online at a very minimal cost. So in closing, I'm going to say that online education as a whole is a place that we can turn to. If you need any help, feel free to write me, give me a call. But it's a way for you to reach out to the world, and you're going to be hearing more and more about it. All I can ask you today, instead of closing out the ears, especially to the people who are talking about this, and saying, oh, that isn't a way to teach, realize it is going to become much more the way to teach. And you too can be teaching people, not just here, but where they need it most. Because the internet is being penetrated to a lot of places. It is not enough that we teach our own children, but the children of all of the nations, and the peer-to-peer education and online education is becoming a way to do so. And I hope you will take a chance to join this project of the Parliaments. That is a way that we can continue to communicate after this event and teach each other. And as the motto is if we can hear each other, we can heal each other. Thank you, and I guess we'll be open for questions.